All right, we're back for tutorial number 4. So last time we made a function, a method, and it handled building lines for us, so that was pretty cool. And this time around, we're going to actually go ahead and make some attributes for the player. So you're going every time you survive and you don't die in the little interactive adventure, you're going to get some experience. You're going to have some HP, that sort of thing, a name. So we could list out the sort of things that, sort of attributes that we'll have here. And then we're going to put it in a class, because a class is actually going to be more appropriate for storing information as a combined unit. So name equals, and then we'll just leave it empty for now, or you can do string.empty. Often when you have a type and then dot and then empty, it'll just set it to whatever the default is for that type. I don't need my headphones on. Had those left on from earlier. Let's see. Okay, so you have a name, and then we have I'm going to do a double value for experience. We're starting at 0, and this is because double values are like 0.01, 0.2, you get it. You can have like numbers with long decimal places. And essentially what this does is it makes it so we can do percentage-based calculations without making it complex. And then we'll do, and also, well, I'll do that in a second here. We'll need integer HP for health points. We'll just call it health. And that way we can have it so that you can make mistakes and not immediately die. And we'll do an integer for that because you could see them sort of as lives. They're just, maybe you have 10 HP. It's unlikely you'd have 10.0003 or something like that, right? So we'll just do that. So these are the parameters we're going to have. Now, obviously, we want to put it in a class. What we'll do here is inside program, or actually, we could just do it inside the namespace. I'm going to put it at the bottom, though, because I want it to be not the top of the screen. I want it less accessible. So public, and then we'll just call this player. Oh, yeah. Class player. And then opening bracket, closing bracket, and then inside the class, we'll want to add these values. So we can just Control X, remove those, and Control V to add them back in to this player. So now the player class has 3 variables currently that it keeps track of. And something you'll see some people do is do get set inside of here. So it's not equals get set. And what this is basically saying is you're allowed to get the value and set the value. There's more complex stuff you can do with get and set, like doing calculations. I don't want to get into that quite yet. So I'm just going to leave it in its simple form of equals and then 0.0. Okay. Now you may have noticed that we had a string name here as well. But now that we have a player variable, we don't need to do that anymore. We can do public or player, PLY, or you can just type it out, equals new player. Cool. Okay, and then what we can do here is say, instead of string name, you say player dot, and then I need to make these public, so they're accessible. One little thing I forgot to do because I copied them over. All right, so now they're accessible. You can do player dot name equals And then when we reference it here, it'll be player.name. And then the other thing is, let's say you survive. Instead of dying here, you'll have player dot experience plus equals 10, let's say. So basically what this means is every time you survive, your player experience goes up by 10. So plus equals is the same as saying player experience is equal to player dot experience plus 10. But it's a simpler form of writing that. And so essentially what you can say is, let's say player experience is equal to 0. What is 0 plus 10? It's 10, so player experience is now equal to 10. But that can be, of course, made simpler by just saying plus equals. All right, so player experience plus equals 10. Okay, and at the moment, I think the only options right now is just this one, so we just need it here. We'll adjust some other things later to make it so that that changes. And then in here, what we need to do instead of also you have died, we need to add a function here and say public damage, or let's say update health. And then what we do here is we say, this needs to be a void function. It doesn't need to be a function. And we say, okay, int amount. And then we can say here, health plus equals amount. If this amount is negative, it'll go in a negative direction even though we have a plus here. So you could do plus or minus equals depending on whether you want that amount to be damage or added health, and then you can just put a negative number in as if you want to deal damage. And then we say if health is less than 0, then we say console.writeLine, you have died. So up here, instead of saying you have died, we'll say player.update health, and we'll say, okay, you take 10 damage, so it's negative 10. And if you notice, when we run this, all right, so it's built. Brandon, hello Brandon, says you find yourself in a forest, what do? And you say, oh, I want to climb. You slip and fall and break your neck. Now, you might notice here that we do not get a you have died. Why? Because down here, I'm realizing now, not less than 0, it's less than or equal to 0. Because if you're at 0 health, obviously you've died. So let's talk about less than or equal. So less than is just if the value is less than a certain value, and this is less than or equal. So it can be either the value is equal to that value or it's less than it. And that also is another example of sort of a compound conditional statement. So I guess you would call it an operation. So it's the same idea as here with the plus equal. It just combines two statements. One would be less than, and then this would be health equals 0. And it combines those into one statement, so it saves you on time and space for programming. Let's try that again. Let's see. All right, there you go. You have died. Now this runs because it does this check. Now if I say instead -1 health, oops, I need to stop this program, -1 health, and then I say in here else console.writeLine, you have, well, we'll just do it without that. You have, and then plus health, and plus HP. Then what we see happening, and in fact, I'm going to go ahead and put this inside of brackets too to make it clear, because if you're a new person, it might be confusing when you see it without it. Basically what that means is this only applies to the next line if it's without this. So you add these in, it's just a little bit easier to understand what's going on because you can see clearly there's stuff inside here. Okay, so we'll run it again. Okay, I misspelled my name, but that's okay. Climb. You slip and fall, you break your neck. You have 9 HP. So this, instead of going to restart, would in theory go to the next scene. So that's something we still have to work on, is figure out what we're going to do next. But at the moment, we have a nice little player class here that handles our HP and changing that, and it handles holding some values for us, like name, experience, health, etc. So I think that's probably a pretty good place to stop at this moment, though we will have to do something about this would you like to restart sort of thing, because what I want to do eventually is make it so that each one of these scenes is its own class, so we can just read off of a list. So we can get to arrays and lists later. So, all right. I think that's enough for now. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye.